Fly fishing to me is, ask my wife, it's all I really think about other than my family. Fly fishing is something that brings me to the river 100 days a year at least. It has to do with catching fish, but it doesn't have to do with catching fish. Sitting at a vise tying flies, thinking about just a leader setup, rigging a rod, and then finally getting the time to step out onto the river. That means the most to me. Connecting to a fish, especially to a steelhead, it's when it all comes together. It's an experience that it's hard to describe, but you can feel it, and you just know that it's something that you want to do over and over again. But at the same time, you relish every moment that you're out there. Rather, if you can't feel your hands and you haven't felt your toes for hours, there's no other place in the world you'd rather be at that time. Everything that we do is low impact. To continue our sport needs to be low impact. We need to practice catch and release. We need to really keep an eye on our rivers. We need to protect what we have. And I think that rings true to even the person that's never even picked up a fly rod. I think somebody who fly fishes has a little bit of a better understanding of the environment around them. And I hope that we can find a way to translate that to somebody who's, not even interested in the sport. Environmental practices are necessary, and I think it goes hand in hand with being a fly fisherman or a fly fishing person. I think everyday life is chaotic. I think we bounce around a lot in this world. We're constantly being updated with information, and we're constantly having to respond to those updates. When you step outside of that, and especially stepping into the fly fishing world, it slows down to a different pace. You get to actually create relationships. You get to create relationships with people. You get to create relationships with places. And I think it's those memories that kind of keep you going with that day-to-day stuff. I saw people on the river today, some that I met at trade shows, some that I've bumped into on the river before, some that have been friends for a long time. And it's just that instant connection. The people that you kind of run into on the river, you already know you have something in common. You already know that they're just as weird as you are because you're standing out there trying to catch a steelhead on a Thursday in March when it's freezing cold. It's that relationship, and I think it's a little bit of that escape that we all need every day. It keeps us going because, the day-to-day is not going to stop, but it's that growth that you feel, that spiritual growth when you step to the river and, you ask for a little bit of time with it. My aunt and uncle had this camp on a small pond/lake, whatever you want to call it, and there was a whole bunch of antique bamboo rods and antique reels that we used to just rip largemouth bass with this stuff that we didn't even know was fly fishing and what we were holding in our hands. It was incredible antique gear that we were catching these fish on. That was, kind of my first introduction to holding a fly rod. I'm not sure if I'd call it fly fishing. And it's something that really sank into me. I've always been one to want to be on a river, whether it's floating in a raft, hanging out in a kayak, or rowing a drift boat. That's where I want to be. My best experience in my life thus far was this past summer with my son Jack, who was just about 1 year old, taking him down in the drift boat for the first time. And he actually reached for the fly rod and just really wanted to just dunk a fly off the side of the boat. And it's kind of like coming full circle. If I could spend the rest of my life rowing a boat with my son in the front seat, I'd be the happiest guy on earth.